The blue flames covered the sky above Kepler Prime like angry storm clouds. Commander Zixela pressed her six-fingered hand against the cold metal wall of the underground bunker and felt the whole planet shake. Another explosion, another building, turned to dust. Another 1,000 lives lost to the Vortok war machines. She closed her large, dark eyes and tried to use her telepathic powers to reach her people on the surface. Nothing came back but screams and pain. The Etherian race had fought the Vortics for over 2 years, but now their beautiful crystal cities lay in ruins. Their quantum shields had failed 3 days ago. Their energy weapons could not pierce the thick armor of Vortok dreadnoughts. "Commander, we need to evacuate the civilians from Section 7, said Captain Mortix, his blue skin pale with fear. Blood ran down his face from a cut above his right eye. The ceiling won't hold much longer. Sixtela nodded and walked through the narrow hallways of the emergency bunker. Hundreds of Etherian families huddled in the darkness. Children cried in their mothers' arms. Old ones sat quietly, knowing they would never see their homeworld's twin suns rise again. The air tasted of smoke and despair. In the main command room, Ambassador Krell of the Nexari stood before a wall of broken screens. His crystal body reflected the red emergency lights like a prism. The Nexari were the smartest race in the Galactic Council. It built the quantum computers that powered entire solar systems. Yet all their intelligence could not stop the Vortok Empire. How many worlds have we lost? Zixtila asked. Krell's voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. 47 Council worlds in the past month. The Zentarians surrendered yesterday after the Vortics destroyed their moon. The Helix Confederation asked for peace terms this morning. Zixtala felt her heart sink. The Galactic Council had ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years. 12 great races working together, sharing knowledge and technology, keeping peace among the stars. Now they were down to 3 functioning fleets and maybe 20 worlds that had not fallen to Vortak rule. What about the reserve fleets from the outer systems, she asked. Gone, Krell said simply. The Vortex destroyed them at the Battle of Rigel Station. Admiral Thoxwin and 30,000 crew members died trying to hold the line. Above them, the bunker shook again. Dust fell from the ceiling. A child somewhere in the darkness started crying. Zixtala walked to the communications console and stared at the long-range transmitter. It was their last hope of getting word. To any surviving Council forces, we should send a final message, she said. Someone needs to know what happened here. Someone needs to remember that we tried to stop them. Krell moved his crystal fingers over the control panel. Where should we broadcast it? Everywhere, Zixtala said. Every system, every world, every species that can hear us. Maybe somewhere out there, someone will learn from our mistakes. Maybe they can do better than we did. The message went out across the galaxy on all frequencies. Kay carried the story of the Galactic Council's fall, the locations of the remaining free worlds. Get a warning about the Vortok Empire's endless hunger for conquest. The signal traveled through space at the speed of light, reaching distant stars and forgotten worlds at the edge of the galaxy. On a small blue planet in an outer spiral arm, Dr. Lisa Grant was working the night shift at the Deep Space Communications. Array in Nevada. She'd been monitoring space signals for 15 years, listening for any sign that Earth was not alone in the universe. Most nights brought nothing but background radiation and stellar noise. Tonight was different. Lisa sat up, straight in her chair as her equipment picked up something unusual, a structured signal with mathematical patterns that could not be natural. She adjusted the receivers and began recording everything. The signal was weak and fading, but she could tell it was artificial. Someone or something was trying to communicate. Across the stars, "Computer, begin signal analysis," she said to the AI system. Cross-reference with all known natural phenomena. The computer worked for several minutes before responding. Signal does not match any known natural source. Pattern suggests intelligent origin. Recommend immediate notification of department head. Lisa's hands shook as she reached for the secure phone. Earth had protocols for this situation, plans that had been made decades ago, but never used. If this was real first contact with alien intelligence, everything would change. Director Hayes, this is Dr. Grant at Array Station 7. we have a Code Silver situation. I repeat, Code Silver. Director Kate Hayes arrived at the facility within an hour, along with a team of linguists, mathematicians, and military advisors. They worked through the night to decode the alien transmission. What they found made everyone in the room go quiet. The message told of a great war among the stars. It spoke of an empire that conquered worlds and enslaved entire species. It described weapons that could destroy planets and fleets of ships larger than Earth's biggest cities. Most importantly, it warned that this empire was still growing, still expanding, still looking for new worlds to conquer. "How far away are they?" asked Colonel Jim Barnes, the military liaison. Dr. Grant checked her calculations again. The signal traveled for approximately 6 months to reach us. Based on the stellar coordinates in the message, the source is about 40,000 light-years away. "So we're safe," Colonel Barnes said with relief. "Even if they expand in our direction, it would take them thousands of years to reach Earth." Dr. Grant shook her head. "Not if they have faster-than-light travel." The message mentioned something called quantum jump drives that let ships travel between star systems in days or weeks. Director Hayes studied the decoded message on her tablet. "There's something else. This isn't just a distress call. It's a warning to anyone who might be listening. They're telling us what's coming." The team worked for 3 more days to fully translate the alien message. They learned about the different species in the Galactic Council, their technologies, their cultures, and their final desperate battle against the Vortok Empire. The message painted a picture of a galaxy at war, with billions of lives hanging. In the balance, on the 4th day, a second signal arrived. This one was different, shorter, more urgent. "This is the final transmission from Kepler Prime," the message said. "The Vortok Empire has won. All Council forces have been defeated or surrendered. To any species receiving this message, learn from our failure. The Vortics show no mercy. They take no prisoners. They will not stop until every free world is under their control." This is Ambassador Krell of the Nexari, signing off. Then silence. Dr. Grant stared at the screen, showing the signal analysis. "Director, I don't think we're getting any more messages from them." Director Hayes nodded grimly. "Colonel Barnes, I need you to contact the Pentagon immediately. Set up a meeting with the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the President's Security Council." "What should I tell them?" Colonel Barnes asked. "Let them that Earth may not be alone in the universe anymore," Hayes said. "And tell them that we need to be ready for visitors who might not be friendly." As Colonel Barnes made his calls, Dr. Grant continued monitoring the deep space frequencies. No more alien signals came through, but she kept listening anyway. Somewhere out there among the stars, an empire was celebrating its victory over the last free worlds of the galaxy. They thought they had won everything. They had no idea that on a small blue planet at the edge of space, the people of Earth had been listening. And more importantly, they had been preparing for this day for a very long time. President Elena Rodriguez walked down the long metal corridor 2 miles beneath the city of Denver. Her footsteps echoed in the tunnel that few people on Earth knew existed. The elevator ride had taken 15 minutes to reach this depth. She was entering a facility that had been built in secret over the past 30 years. "Madam President, welcome to Deep Rock Command," said General Jake Morrison as he saluted. The general was a tall man with gray hair and scars on his left hand from an old training accident. "I know this is a lot to take in all at once." Lena looked around the massive underground chamber. Computer screens covered the walls from floor to ceiling. Hundreds of technicians worked at control stations. The room buzzed with activity like a beehive. But what caught her attention most were the large display screens showing images of spacecraft and weapons, systems she had never seen before. "General, when Director Hayes briefed me about the alien signal, she mentioned that we had contingency plans," Elena said. "She didn't tell me we had built a secret military base under Colorado." General Morrison smiled grimly. "Madam President, this base is just the beginning. We've been preparing for this possibility since 2337. That's when we recovered our first piece of alien technology." He led her to a secure briefing room, where other world leaders waited via encrypted video links. The faces on the screens looked worried and confused. The President of the European Federation, the Premier of the Asian Alliance, and the chairman of the African Union had all been told the same thing Alina had learned 3 days ago. Earth was not alone, and the neighbors were not friendly. Ladies and gentlemen, General Morrison began, 50 years ago, a damaged spacecraft crashed in the Sahara Desert. The ship was small, probably a scout vessel. The pilot was dead, but the technology was intact. We learned 2 important things from that crash. First, we are not the only intelligent species in the galaxy. Second, not all of them are peaceful. Pressed a button, and the wall screen showed photographs of the crashed ship. The vessel was angular and dark, nothing like the smooth designs humans imagined alien ships would have. Strange symbols covered its hull. The cockpit was filled with controls that looked more like weapons systems than navigation equipment. The ship belonged to the Vortok Empire, Morrison continued. We didn't know that name at the time, but we learned it from the computer systems we managed to decode. We also learned that they had been mapping this part of the galaxy for conquest. Alina felt a chill run down her spine. You're telling me that aliens have been planning to invade Earth for 50 years? We don't know if Earth was specifically targeted, Morrison said. But we do know they were scouting this region of space. So we decided to prepare for the worst-case scenario. The general activated another screen showing a map of the solar system. But this map looked different from any Alina had seen before. Red dots marked locations throughout the system, from Mercury to Pluto. Hundreds of red dots. We've spent 5 decades building defensive installations throughout the solar system, Morrison explained. Hidden bases on asteroids, weapon platforms. In the asteroid belt, underground facilities on Mars and the Moon. We've also reverse-engineered the alien technology and combined it with human innovation. Captain Ryan Walsh entered the briefing room, carrying a tablet computer. The captain was young for his rank, maybe 35 years old, with short brown hair and intelligent eyes. He had been selected to command humanity's first deep space warship. Madam President, Captain Walsh will be leading our space fleet, Morrison said. Ryan, show her what we've built. Captain Walsh activated his tablet, and the wall screen changed to show a massive spacecraft floating in what looked like a construction facility. The ship was huge, at least 2 miles long, with thick armor plating and dozens of weapon turrets. Unlike the crashed alien ship, this vessel looked purely human in design, built for function rather than elegance. This is the TDF Liberation, our flagship, Walsh said. We've built 37 ships like this one, plus hundreds of smaller vessels. They're all hidden in facilities on the far side of the moon where Earth-based telescopes can't see them. Alina stared at the image. How did you keep this secret from the entire world? The same way we kept the Manhattan Project secret during World War II, Morrison replied. Compartmentalized information, need-to-know basis, and a cover story. About deep space research. Most of the people working on the project don't know what they're really building. Engineer Maya Patel joined them in the briefing room. She was a small woman with dark hair and oil stains on her work uniform. Maya had been the lead designer on the human fleet's weapon systems. Her team had taken alien technology and made it work with human tactics. The key advantage we have is that aliens think differently than we do, Maya explained. They've been fighting space wars for thousands of years, so they have established rules and tactics. They use energy weapons and energy shields. They fight in formations like ships on an ocean. They expect their enemies to do the same thing. She pulled up a technical diagram showing the Liberation's weapon systems. We decided to ignore their rules. Our ships use kinetic weapons, basically really big bullets fired at very high speeds. Most alien shields are designed to stop energy beams, not physical projectiles. We also use nuclear warheads, chemical explosives, and even ramming tactics. Meaning we built spaceships that can ram into enemy vessels? Alina asked. Among other things, Maya said with a slight smile. We also developed adaptive tactics. Our ship's computers can learn from each battle and change their strategies. Most alien species rely on pre-programmed battle plans. They don't adapt well to unexpected situations. Captain Walsh brought up another screen showing a training simulation. Human spacecraft moved in unpredictable patterns, using asteroids and debris for cover, attacking from multiple angles simultaneously. It looked chaotic, compared to the orderly formations Elena had seen in science fiction movies. "We've been running combat simulations for 20 years, Walsh said. Every scenario we could think of. Large fleet battles, small unit tactics, planetary defense, deep space operations. Our crews have trained for situations that haven't happened yet." General Morrison walked to the main display screen and brought up a star map showing the local region of the galaxy. 3 days ago, we received confirmation that the Vortok Empire has conquered the Galactic Council. Based on the alien message, they control most of the galaxy now. It's only a matter of time before they expand into this region of space. Alina studied the map. Earth looked very small and isolated compared to the vast Vortok territory shown in red. "How long do we have?" "Unknown," Morrison said. "Could be years, could be decades. But if they have the technology described in the alien message, they could arrive much sooner. We need to be ready now." Maya pulled up another technical display. "There's something else you should know, Madam President. We didn't just build weapons and ships. We built something the aliens don't have. True artificial intelligence." On the screen appeared the image of a computer interface that looked almost human. The face was composed of light patterns, but it had eyes that seemed to look directly at Alina. "This is Arya, our adaptive response intelligence assistant," Maya said. "She can think, learn, and make decisions faster than any human or alien computer we know about. Every ship in our fleet has an Arya unit. They can coordinate battle tactics across the entire fleet in real time." The AI face on the screen spoke in a calm female voice. "Good evening, Madam President. I have been analyzing the alien transmission and running probability calculations for the past 72 hours. I believe humanity has a 67% chance of successfully defending Earth if the Vortok Empire attacks with a standard conquest fleet." Alina felt overwhelmed by everything she had learned. "And if they send more than a standard fleet?" Arya paused for a moment. "Then we will adapt our tactics and fight with every resource available. That is what humans do best, according to my analysis of human history." General Morrison closed the briefing files and looked at Alina seriously. "Madam President, we need your authorization to move our fleet from the hidden bases to active patrol positions. If the Vortics are coming, we want to meet them as far from Earth as possible." Alina thought about the billions of people on Earth who had no idea that alien invaders might be approaching. They were going about their daily lives, working, studying, raising families, completely unaware that their world might soon be under attack. The decision she made in the next few minutes could determine whether human civilization survived or ended. "General Morrison, you have my authorization," she said firmly. "Activate the fleet. Prepare our defenses. Pray that we're ready for whatever's coming." Lena left the underground facility and returned to the surface. She looked up at the night sky with new eyes. Somewhere among those stars, an empire was celebrating its victory over the last free worlds of the galaxy. They believed they had won everything. What they didn't know was that humanity had been preparing for this war for 50 years. And humans had some very unpleasant surprises waiting for anyone who threatened their home. Captain Amanda Foster stood on the bridge of the TDF Vanguard and watched the unknown ships appear on her screen. 3 weeks had passed since the human fleet left their hidden bases and began patrolling the outer edges of human space. This was the moment they had all been waiting for and dreading. "Captain, we have 5 vessels approaching from the Centauri system," reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the sensor station. "They don't match any known human designs. Its energy signatures are consistent with the crashed ship we recovered 50 years ago." Amanda felt her heart rate increase but kept her voice calm. "Red alert. All hands to battle stations. Communications. Try to establish contact with the approaching vessels." The bridge lights dimmed to red as the crew prepared for humanity's first official contact with alien intelligence. Amanda had trained for this moment for 15 years, but actually seeing alien warships on her screen made everything feel real in a way that simulations never could. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from the lead vessel," said communications. "Officer Tony Martinez. It's coming through on multiple frequencies. The computer is trying to translate it." On the main screen appeared the image of something that looked like a nightmare made real. The creature had a hard shell like an insect, multiple arms ending in sharp claws and compound eyes that reflected the light like black mirrors. When it spoke, its voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "Unknown vessel, you will surrender immediately," the alien said through the computer's translation system. "This system now belongs to the Vortak Empire. Your species will be cataloged and processed for useful genetic material. Resistance will result in immediate extinction." Amanda looked around her bridge at the 200 crew members who represented Earth's finest military personnel. These men and women had volunteered for a mission they knew might be one way. They had families back on Earth who didn't even know where they were or what they were doing. "Communications, open a channel to the Vortak vessel," Amanda ordered. "Channel. Open, Captain." Amanda stood up from her command chair and straightened her uniform. What she said next would be humanity's first official words to an alien species. She had rehearsed this moment many times, but now that it was happening, she decided to speak from the heart. "This is Captain Amanda Foster of the Terran Defense Force ship Vanguard," she said clearly. "You are ordered to withdraw from this system immediately. This region of space is under the protection of the human race. We will not surrender, and we will not allow you to harm any innocent species." The Vortak commander on the screen made a sound that might have been laughter. "Humans. We have no record of this species in our database. You appear to be a primitive race with crude technology. Your ship is small, and your weapons are obsolete. We will destroy you as an example to any other species that might consider resistance." "Then you don't know humans very well," Amanda replied. "We don't make threats. We make promises. Leave this system now, or we will remove you by force." The alien commander cut the communication link. On the tactical display, Amanda watched as 3 Vortak cruisers separated from the main group and moved toward the Vanguard. Each enemy ship was twice the size of her vessel and carried energy weapons that could vaporize a mountain.
"Captain."
"The 3 approaching ships are powering up their weapon systems," reported Weapons Officer Lieutenant Commander Nick Peterson. "They're targeting our engines and life support systems. Looks like they want to capture us alive. It's their first mistake," Amanda said. "Prepare a full spread of kinetic torpedoes. Sarah, plot an evasive course through the asteroid. Field Tony, record everything and transmit it back to Earth. I want command to see exactly how these aliens fight." The Vanguard moved toward the 3 Vortak cruisers, but not in the straight line the aliens expected. Instead, the human ship weaved between asteroids, using the space rocks as cover and concealment. The Vortak energy beams hit empty space where the Vanguard had been moments before. "Captain, the aliens are trying to predict our movement patterns," Sarah reported. "Their targeting computers are adapting to our course changes." "Then let's give them something they can adapt to," Amanda said. "All stop. Hold position behind that large asteroid." The Vanguard came to a complete halt in the shadow of a massive space rock. The 3 Vortak cruisers spread out in a search pattern, looking for the human ship that had suddenly disappeared from their sensors. "Captain, they're moving into perfect position," Nick said with a grin. "Permission to fire?" "Granted. Give them everything we have." What happened next shocked the Vortak forces and would later be studied by military academies across the galaxy. The Vanguard didn't engage in the elegant energy weapon duels that characterized most space battles. Instead, the human ship unleashed a barrage of kinetic torpedoes, nuclear warheads, and railgun projectiles that moved too fast for the alien shields to stop. The first Vortak cruiser exploded in a ball of fire as 3 nuclear warheads penetrated its energy shields and detonated. Inside the hull, the second ship tried to retreat but was hit by a railgun projectile traveling at 10% of light speed. The tungsten rod punched through the ship from nose to tail, destroying every system in its path. The third Vortak cruiser managed to fire its energy weapons at the asteroid where the Vanguard was hiding. The space rock exploded into fragments, but the human ship was no longer there. Amanda had ordered the ship to move the moment they fired their weapons, using the explosion as cover. "Target the third ship's engine systems," Amanda ordered. "Want prisoners, not wreckage." The Vanguard emerged from the debris field and fired a precise barrage of smaller kinetic projectiles. The Vortak cruiser's engines exploded, leaving the ship drifting helplessly in space. Emergency lights flickered along its hull as life support systems struggled to keep the crew alive. "We're receiving a transmission from the damaged Vortok ship," Tony reported. "They're asking for terms of surrender." Amanda was quiet for a moment. This was not something they had planned for in the simulations. The aliens were supposed to fight to the death according to everything they knew about Vortok behavior. "Put them on screen," she said. The same insect-like creature appeared. But now, its compound eyes showed what Amanda recognized as fear. The alien commander's shell was cracked, and green blood leaked from several wounds. "Human commander," the Vortok said, "we surrender. We did not expect your species to fight with such creativity. Our records indicated that most species engage in traditional energy weapon combat. Your tactics are unlike anything in our military database." "That's because we wrote our own book on warfare," Amanda replied. "You have two choices. You can return to your empire and tell them that this region of space is defended. You can stay here and face the consequences of threatening innocent worlds." The Vortok commander was quiet for several seconds. "We will return to our fleet and report what we have seen. But you should know that the Empire will send many more ships. What you call the Centauri system is only a small patrol. When the main battle fleets arrive, they will bring thousands of vessels. Then we'll be ready for them," Amanda said simply. "But you might want to suggest that your empire reconsider its expansion plans. Humans don't surrender, and we don't run away. We just find new ways to fight." The damaged Vortak cruiser limped away from the battle site, carrying with it the news. That would change everything. The Vortok Empire, which had conquered the galaxy through superior technology and overwhelming force, had just suffered their first defeat to an unknown species. Back on the bridge of the Vanguard, Amanda's crew was celebrating their victory. But she knew this was just the beginning. The real battle would come when the Vortok Empire decided to respond with everything they had. "Tony, send a message to Earth Command," she ordered. "Tell them that first contact protocols have been completed. The aliens know we exist, and they're not happy about it. Request immediate reinforcement of all defensive positions." As the Vanguard returned to patrol duty, word of the human victory spread through both Vortak communication networks and the hidden resistance groups of surviving council species. For the first time in decades, the galaxy had seen an alien empire suffer defeat. The Vortics had controlled the galaxy through fear and the belief that resistance was hopeless. That belief was shattered. Somewhere in the Outer Rim, a species called humans had proven that the mighty Vortak Empire could be beaten. The news traveled faster than light through quantum communication relays, reaching every corner of Vortak space within hours. In hidden bunkers and refugee camps, survivors of the Galactic Council heard the impossible news and dared to hope again. The galaxy was about to discover that the war was far from over. Supreme Commander Thraxon stared at the tactical display in his command ship and felt something he had never experienced before: doubt. For 300 years, he had led Vortok fleets across the galaxy. Every species had fallen before his overwhelming firepower. Every world had surrendered when faced with the might of the Empire. Now a species called humans had destroyed 3 of his cruisers with a single small ship. "Commander, Battlefleet Omega is assembled and ready to jump to the human homeworld," reported his second-in-command, Captain Vexstar. 500 of our finest warships, including the new Dreadnought-class vessels. Surely no primitive species can stand against such force. Thraxon studied the intelligence reports from the failed Centauri patrol. The humans had used tactics that made no sense according to established military doctrine. They hid behind asteroids like cowards, then struck with weapons that ignored energy shields. They fought without honor or proper formation. "Prepare the fleet for quantum jump," he ordered. "We will make an example of this human species. Their extinction will remind the galaxy why resistance is futile." The massive Vortak fleet disappeared from normal space and reappeared near the edge of a yellow star system. Thraxon expected to find a primitive world with crude defenses. What his sensors showed instead made his compound eyes widen in surprise. "Commander, I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout this star system, Vexstar reported. Hidden installations on multiple worlds and asteroid bases. This system has been heavily fortified. Admiral Susan Clark sat in the command center deep beneath the moon's surface and watched 500 enemy ships appear on her tactical display. For 30 years, she had prepared for this moment. Now the real test of human defenses would begin. All stations report ready, Admiral, said Colonel Pete Jackson, her chief of staff. Mars orbital platforms are charged and targeted. Asteroid belt weapon systems are online. Jupiter deep space monitors have enemy fleet locked on sensors. Susan had spent her entire military career preparing to fight a battle that might never come. Now that it was here, she felt a strange sense of calm. Everything humanity had built, every sacrifice they had made, would be tested in the next few hours. Activate Fortress Luna defensive protocols, she ordered. Launch all fighter squadrons. Signal Mars Command to begin Operation Anvil. The human response to the Vortok invasion began immediately, but not in the way the aliens expected. Instead of meeting the enemy fleet in open space combat, human forces initiated what would later be called the most complex defensive strategy in galactic history. From hidden bases throughout the asteroid belt, hundreds of weapon platforms powered up and began firing long-range projectiles toward the Vortok fleet. The tungsten rods would take hours to reach their targets, but they moved too fast for enemy sensors to detect until the last few seconds. On Mars, massive railgun installations swiveled toward precise coordinates and fired projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. The shots would arrive at the same time as the asteroid belt weapons, creating a coordinated barrage from multiple directions. Commander Tony Rodriguez led Falcon Squadron. 12 human fighters launched from a hidden base on the moon's far side. His pilots were the best humanity had to offer, trained specifically to fight alien spacecraft using tactics no enemy would expect. Falcon Squadron, this is Base Command, came Admiral Clark's voice over the radio. Your mission is harassment and intelligence gathering. Do not engage the main fleet directly. Use hit-and-run tactics to gather data on their weapon systems and response patterns. Tony smiled inside his helmet. Copy that, Base Command. Falcons, you heard the lady? We're not here to win a fight. We're here to be really annoying, the human. Fighters moved through the outer system using gravitational slingshots around planets and moons to build up speed. They approached the Vortok fleet from the direction of the sun, using the star's radiation to mask their heat signatures. Supreme. Commander Thrakson was studying the defensive positions when his tactical officer reported the first wave of attacks. Commander, we're detecting incoming projectiles from multiple vectors. Impact in 30 seconds. Impossible, Thrakson said. Our sensors show no enemy ships in firing position. The first tungsten rods struck the Vortok fleet like invisible hammers. Ships that had survived energy weapon battles for centuries were suddenly holed by projectiles moving too fast to stop. The kinetic energy alone was enough to cripple vessels that outweighed human ships by 10 to 1. Evasive maneuvers, Thrakson ordered. Locate the source of those projectiles. But before his fleet could respond, the second wave arrived. Rail. Gun projectiles from Mars struck with pinpoint accuracy, targeting the largest ships first. The Vortok dreadnought Kexmara took 3 direct hits and began venting atmosphere from massive holes in its hull. Commander, small enemy craft approaching from Sector 7, Vexstar reported. 12 vessels, moving at high speed. Tony Rodriguez led his squadron in a diving attack that brought them within weapons range of the SH fleet for exactly 47 seconds. In that brief window, the human fighters fired every missile they carried and immediately retreated behind Jupiter's radiation belt. The Vortok return fire hit empty space. The human fighters were already gone, using Jupiter's powerful magnetic field to mask their escape route. But the damage was done. 6 Vortok cruisers were disabled by missile hits. The enemy fleet was now completely confused about where the attacks were coming from. This is impossible, Thrakson growled. How can such a primitive species coordinate attacks from across an entire star system? What the Vortok commander didn't understand was that human tactics were based on a completely different philosophy of warfare. While alien species fought for territory and honor, humans fought to win by any means necessary. They used every advantage they could find, including the solar system itself as a weapon. The battle for the Sol system continued for 6 months. The Vortok fleet, despite its overwhelming size advantage, found itself fighting an enemy that refused to play by the rules. Human forces never engaged in direct fleet combat. Instead, they used constant harassment, surprise attacks, and coordinated strikes from hidden positions. Captain Ben Carker commanded the destroyer TDF Defiance when the turning point of the battle arrived. His ship had been damaged in a skirmish. Near Venus and was limping back to Earth for repairs when his sensors detected Supreme Commander Thraxon's flagship moving toward Earth's moon. "Captain, the enemy command ship is heading for Admiral Clark's position," reported his tactical officer. "If they take out Fortress Luna, our entire defensive network will collapse." Ben studied his damage reports. His ship's engines were failing. His weapons were low on ammunition, and his life support systems were running on emergency power. By any reasonable measure, he should retreat and let other ships handle the threat. But Ben Parker was human, and humans had their own ideas about what was reasonable. "All hands, this is the captain," he announced over the ship's intercom. "We have one chance to stop the enemy flagship from destroying our command center. I won't lie to you. This is a suicide mission. It's anyone who wants to evacuate to the escape. Pods has 60 seconds to do so. No one left their posts." "Engineering, give me everything the engines have left," Ben ordered. "Weapons, load our last nuclear warhead. Navigation, plot an intercept course with the enemy flagship." The Defiance accelerated toward the massive Vortok command ship, taking heavy fire from its defensive weapons. Human fighters from other squadrons tried to provide cover, but the destroyer was too badly damaged to survive the approach. Captain Holbreach on decks 3 through 7 reported his damage control officer. "We've lost main power. Switch to auxiliary power," Ben said calmly. "How long until impact?" 45 seconds, sir." Ben opened a communication channel to Admiral Clark. "Fortress Luna, this is Captain Parker aboard the Defiance. Tell my wife I love her. Tell Earth that we did our duty." The TDF Defiance struck Supreme Commander Thraxon's flagship at 1/3 light speed. The collision destroyed both vessels instantly, creating a flash of light visible from Earth's surface. The explosion took with it the Vortok Empire's most experienced military commander and their most advanced warship, with their leader dead and their command structure broken. Surviving Vortok fleet began to retreat. They had come to the Sol system expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they had encountered something that challenged everything they thought they knew about warfare. Admiral Clark watched the enemy ships disappear into quantum space and allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The human defense of Earth had succeeded, but she knew this was only the beginning. The Vortok Empire would return with larger fleets and new tactics, but when they came back, they would find that humans had learned from this battle too. And humans were very good at learning from their mistakes. The news of humanity's successful defense spread throughout the galaxy faster than the retreating Vortok ships. In hidden bases and refugee camps, survivors of the Galactic Council heard the incredible news. Single species had fought the entire Vortok Empire to a standstill. For the first time in decades, the galaxy had hope. Fleet Admiral Kate Morrison stood on the bridge of the TDF Liberation and watched 200 human warships prepare for the longest military campaign in Earth's history. 6 months had passed since humanity's victory at Sol System. Now it was time to take the fight to the enemy. "Admiral, all ships report ready for Operation Prometheus," said Captain Steve Miller, her chief of operations. "Alliance. Forces from 12 liberated worlds are standing by to assist." Kate nodded as she studied the star map on her command screen. The galaxy was vast, and the Vortok Empire still controlled thousands of worlds. But something had changed since humanity entered the war. Resistance groups that had hidden for decades were now fighting openly. Entire systems were declaring independence from Vortok rule. "Signal the fleet," Kate ordered. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. Today we begin the liberation of the galaxy. Our mission is not conquest. Our mission is freedom. We fight not just for humanity, but for every species that has suffered. Under Vortak oppression, the human fleet jumped into hyperspace, beginning a campaign that would reshape the galaxy. But Kate knew that winning battles was only part of the challenge. The real victory would come from teaching other species how to fight for themselves. On the bridge of the destroyer, TDF Courage, Commander Zixthala of the Etherian Defense Force watched the human fleet in action for the first time. The blue-skinned alien had survived the fall of Kepler Prime and spent months hiding in asteroid bases. When human ships found her refugee group, she volunteered to join their liberation forces. Commander Zixthala, what do you think of human battle tactics? Asked Lieutenant Danny Wright, the ship's tactical officer. Zixthala studied the tactical display showing the human attack on a Vortok supply depot instead of the frontal assault she expected. Human forces were using multiple small groups to attack from different directions simultaneously. Your species fights unlike any I have seen, she said. Now, you do not seek glorious victory in single combat. You seek to win by any means necessary. It is ... effective, but very different from traditional warfare. Lieutenant Wright smiled. Because we learned warfare from fighting each other for thousands of years. We know every dirty trick in the book because we invented most of them. The liberation of Kepler Prime became the campaign's most important symbolic victory. Captain Steve Miller led a joint force of human marines and alien resistance fighters in the ground assault. The planet had been under Vortak occupation for 2 years and its population had suffered terribly. Sergeant Maria Santos crouched behind the ruins of what had once been a beautiful crystal building. Round her, a mixed squad of humans and Etherians prepared to assault a Vortak command bunker. The fighting in the city had been brutal, but they were winning using tactics the Vortics had never encountered. Santos, take your squad through the subway tunnels, Captain Miller ordered over the radio. Hit them from below while we attack from the front. Maria led her team through the underground passages that the Etherians had built centuries ago. The Vortics, who preferred to fight in open ground, had never thought to guard the underground approaches to their fortifications. Remember, we want prisoners if possible, Maria told her squad. Command wants to know how many other worlds the Vortics are planning to attack. The combined assault on the Vortic bunker lasted only 20 minutes. Human soldiers moved through buildings and sewers like urban predators, while Etherian fighters used their telepathic abilities to coordinate attacks. The Vortics, trained for traditional battlefield combat, couldn't adapt to this new style of warfare. When the bunker fell, over 300 Vortic soldiers surrendered. It was the first time in the Empire's history that an entire unit had given up rather than fight to the death. Colonel Danny Wright led the final assault on the Vortok homeworld of Krexanalar. The planet was supposed to be impregnable, protected by orbital defense platforms that had never been defeated. But humans had different ideas about how to attack a heavily defended world. Colonel, the orbital platforms are targeting our fleet, reported Captain Ashley Turner from the command ship in orbit. Their energy weapons are powerful enough to destroy our largest ships. Then we don't attack the platforms directly, Danny replied. Ashley, launch the infiltration pods. Let's see how good their defenses are against an enemy that's already inside their perimeter. The human plan was audacious, even by their own standards. Instead of trying to fight through the orbital defenses, small teams of soldiers would land on the planet's surface using stealth pods. These teams would then attack the defense platforms from the ground, disabling their power systems and communication networks. Sergeant Lisa Hayes led one of the infiltration teams that landed near the capital city of Krexenlar. Her squad consisted of 6 humans and 4 alien specialists who knew Vortok technology. Their mission was to disable the main defense computer that controlled the orbital platforms. Remember, we're not trying to win a war down here, Lisa told her team as they moved through the alien city. We're trying to create enough chaos to let our fleet break through the orbital defenses. The infiltration team struck simultaneously across the planet. Power plants exploded, communication towers went dark, and defense computers crashed as human viruses infected their systems. The Vortok military, which had always relied on centralized command and control, found itself blind and unable to coordinate a response. In orbit, Captain Ashley Turner watched the orbital defense platforms go offline, one by one. Colonel Wright, this is Turner. The orbital defenses are down. Beginning fleet bombardment of military targets. The battle for Krexanalar lasted 3 days. When it ended, the Vortek Empire's capital world was under human control. But the most important moment came when Fleet Admiral Kate Morrison met with the last Vortek Empress Krexnera in the planet's throne room. The Empress was ancient, even by Vortek standards, her shell scarred from centuries of warfare. She had ruled the Empire for 400 years, conquering countless worlds and enslaving billions of beings. Now she sat on her crystal throne, defeated by a species she had never heard of 6 months ago. Human Commander Krexnera set in, her mechanical voice, "You have proven your military superiority. What tribute do you demand from the conquered worlds? Territories will you claim for your empire?" Kate Morrison stood before the throne in her simple military uniform, flanked by representatives from a dozen liberated species. "Your Majesty, I think you misunderstand our intentions. We didn't come here to build an empire. We came here to end yours." The Empress's compound eyes showed confusion. "I do not understand. You have defeated the greatest military force in the galaxy. Surely, you wish to rule the worlds we once controlled." "No," Kate said simply. "We want those worlds to rule themselves. Freedom isn't something you give to people, something they have to choose for themselves." Over the following months, the Vortek Empire was dismantled, not through conquest, but through liberation. World after world declared independence and formed their own governments. The Vortex themselves, freed from their rigid military hierarchy, began to discover what it meant to live as individuals rather than as parts of a hive mind. Commander Zixthala was elected as the first president of the new Therian Republic. Ambassador Krell, who had survived the fall of the Galactic Council, helped establish the new Galactic Senate. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered on neutral worlds to write constitutions and peace treaties. But the most important change was cultural. The galaxy had learned that resistance was possible, that even the most powerful empire could be defeated by people willing to fight for their freedom. On New Geneva Station, the new capital of the Galactic Republic, human and alien children played together in the observation decks. They looked out at the stars without fear, knowing that somewhere among those distant suns, joint human-alien fleets patrolled the space lanes to ensure that never again would any species face extinction, while others watched helplessly. Fleet Admiral Kate Morrison walked through the station's corridors and smiled as she watched the children play. The war was over, but the real work was just beginning. Building a free galaxy would be harder than conquering one, but humans had always been good at difficult projects. In the station's communication center, Dr. Lisa Grant monitored the deep space frequencies, listening for signals from unexplored regions of the galaxy. The universe was vast and humanity had only seen a small part of it, but whatever they found out there, they would face it together with their new alien friends. The Vortek Empire's 1,000-year reign had ended, not with the extinction of a species, but with the birth of a new kind of civilization. A civilization based not on conquest and fear, but on cooperation and the simple human belief that everyone deserved to be free. The galaxy would never be the same.